Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to today's Friday Reflections on this Friday, the 9th of July 2021. Jummah Mubarak, happy Friday. I hope everybody is well who is tuning into this. And, I do realize, of course, that we are living in challenging times. So if you are going through things at the moment, then, my thoughts and prayers are with you. Now, today I would like to read from this book, Mercy Ocean's Hidden Treasures, which is one of Mawlana Shaykh Nazim's books from the 1980s. I think this one is actually from 1980. And there's a particular part that caught my attention, which I thought would be good to read today. It's very relevant considering everything that we've been through in this past year. Istiqamah, bearing the load of the divine trust. So it's Istiqamah, bearing the load of the divine trust. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Grand Shaykh says that if a person faces an unliked event that is sent to him as a test, so it may be seen whether he can stand firmly in the face of it, and instead of standing firmly, he runs and escapes, failing the test, and were he then after his failure to pick up the Quran and to begin reading from it, every letter and point of the Holy Quran will be cursing him. We must keep our faith and maintain our steadfastness firmly, Istiqamah, without becoming dissolute and falling apart at the seams. Every letter, every word and verse of the Holy Quran tells believers to keep their faith firmly. Even when so many terrible events are rushing on us. Even when so many terrible events are rushing on us, to hold that faith firmly in our hands and hearts, although that may be more difficult than holding a glowing coal in one's hand. Now, Allah hasn't given us any unnecessary difficulties in our religion. In many ways, Islam is easy to practice. But we are living in such times. We are living in such times when faith is not valued as it used to be, when it can be difficult at times to keep faith. And we are living in times when we are being tested. We're being tested with this coronavirus. We are being tested with all manner of things which are going on in the world today, and which are stressing many people out all around the world. But at the same time, life is testing. Allah tells us this in the Holy Quran. And, you only have to read the story of Ayub alayhi salam in the Holy Quran to realize just how testing things can be. Or the life of Yusuf alayhi salam, both of whom faced immense tests. Actually, all of the prophets faced immense tests. Now, we are not prophets, astaghfirullah, even to compare, but we are walking in the footsteps of prophets. We are following the deen of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was passing on the deen of all of the prophets. So we cannot expect that we will not be tested. And it's when we're being tested that we need to have this steadfastness. We need to have istiqamah. We need at this time especially to keep carrying on and to have that faith. That is what faith really means, to have faith. It's to continue in the face of the difficulties and the challenges. That's what distinguishes the people who really have faith from the people who don't. It's not what people dress like. It's how people live. It's how people face the difficulties that they face. Mawlana continues, in this manner, our Grand Shaykh was stressing the importance of tolerating unliked events. And he said that every religion was based upon just this. Our life is so full of disagreeable things that our opportunities to put this teaching into practice are many. Our egos hate having restrictions imposed upon them. But all religions are doing exactly that. They tell the ego that he may or may not do such and such an activity. This is the most annoying thing possible for the ego, as its main innate characteristic is not liking to be told anything. It wants absolute freedom, but absolute freedom is for Allah Almighty only, and we as His servants must accept this and feel honoured at being under His command, here and in the hereafter. So you see, a few points here is the importance of at least tolerating unliked events. Nobody likes unliked events, but we have to at least tolerate them. Better is to accept them, but that's the more difficult, but at least to tolerate, because this is something which it's going to happen. I mean, even Mawlana mentions here that Grand Shaykh said this is the basis of all religions. And we see this too in the teachings of Jesus, peace be upon him, which form the basis of Christianity. He also taught people that you're going to have to go through difficulties and, according to their metaphors, carry your cross. And then you've got within the Buddhist tradition, where the Buddha taught that life is suffering. So we're not going to escape that. Some people think that they can run away to the mountains or run away somewhere else and escape suffering. Unfortunately, that's never going to happen in this life. Wherever you go, you might escape one suffering, you will get another kind of suffering. There will always be some element of suffering within this life. So the question is not how to escape it, but how do we deal with it? How do we learn to live with this? And not just learn to live with it, but turn that into a positive thing. Turn that into an opportunity. You see, why are we here on this earth? Why are we here living this life? Are we here just to pleasure ourselves? Just to enjoy ourselves? Or are we here to test ourselves, to test the metal, to test what we're really made of? I mean, people today, they often feel life has no meaning. This has become very common. A lot of people are like this. They feel life has no meaning. Well, of course, if everything is at the touch of a button and you can access anything you want at the touch of a button, life ceases to have that element of challenge and test which drives us forward. You look at all of the sports. I mean, everybody in the UK, especially at the moment, certainly across Europe, and football fans around the world, are looking at the Euro 2020, which should have happened last year, but because of COVID, it's happening this year. And those footballers, they have to push themselves to their limits in order to win. You're not going to win a football match if you're lazy. You're not going to win a football match if as soon as you face some unliked situation on the pitch that you give up. You're not going to win a football match if as soon as you lose the ball to the opposing team, you don't try and get it back. You see, in a football game, you have lots of challenges to you winning the match, because obviously the other side wants to win the match too. They want to win it just as much as you do. So sports, all sports, they have this element of challenging, of testing us. And this is in sport. It's obvious in sport, but this is what life is about. Life is not about having everything at the touch of a button. Life is not about having everything as easy. Of course, we like to have convenience. Convenience is useful if we use it as part of a process of achieving something great. But if we're just pushing buttons and getting what we want, eating and sleeping and getting what we want, of course we will feel our life has no meaning. We have to push ourselves. We have to find something that is, as Joseph Campbell said, he says you have to follow your passion. You have to have some kind of a passion in life, something that drives you forward. And you have to chase that. And this gives your life meaning. And if you don't push yourselves, if you don't come against any kind of difficulties or challenges, life ceases to have meaning. And this we find within all of the religious traditions. It points out that life is full of difficulties. Life is full of suffering. So it's how we actually approach that. Do we approach that like a couch potato and just, feel, oh no, something's gone wrong again, and feel depressed and feel upset about it? Or do we approach it like those footballers in the England team, and no doubt in the Italian team as well, on Sunday, who will actually be approaching each one of those difficulties that they face on the path to victory as an opportunity so that they can win? What do I mean? Do they lose the ball to the opposite side? Well, you tackle the opposite side. You get that ball back. You get possession of the ball. You make sure that you take every opportunity to score a goal. In life, we will be tested. In life, we have goals we want to achieve. Just like on the football pitch, those footballers want to get as many goals in for their side so that they can win the match. We have goals in life. We have to aim for those goals. And when we get opportunities, we have to take them. And we're always going to come across difficulties, because obviously, just like in the football match, you're going to have the opposite team defending that goal. You're going to have to get past those defenders. If you don't, you're not going to be able to score your goals. Same thing in life. You're going to have difficulties come your way because other people are trying to achieve their goals. So you have to face it with a positive attitude. And just like at the end of the football match, where you get both teams actually hug each other, you shouldn't hate anybody. You shouldn't hate anybody that, comes in your way or makes difficulties for you, because this actually hurts your own heart. You have to appreciate them and appreciate that they also have if we win, if England wins on Sunday, we have to appreciate that it was through overcoming Italy. It was through overcoming Denmark and Ukraine. If we don't appreciate what those other teams did in order to give us the opportunity in order to win, there would be no Euro 2020. There would be no football. In a similar way, there would be no life. If there was no difficulties within life, life wouldn't exist. Life would be just meaningless. So we will come across unlike things in life, just like Grand Shaykh says, but we have to learn how to approach them in a positive way and learn to overcome those things. Turn each one of those unliked difficulties into an opportunity for us to grow, to develop, and to get closer to achieving our goals. And of course, Grand Shaykh continues and says that our egos hate more than anything else, they hate having any kind of restrictions placed upon us. This is the nature of ego. It hates that. But at the same time, that's what religions do. Why do religions do that? You see, if we allowed our ego what our ego wants, our ego would not consider anybody else. Our ego would be ultimate selfishness, may even be ultimately cruel, and just because it's totally unthinking about anybody else. If we follow the path of the ego, it is very, very dangerous. So this is why religions put guidelines which are to help us to contain our ego. If we train our ego can be the dragon that carries us into victory. But you think about an untamed dragon, how quickly will that destroy you and a lot of things around you if you do not learn to tame it? And this is why religions put these restrictions upon our egos, advise us not to do this or not to do that, because those things are harmful for us, and ultimately we will regret them. So this is why religions do this, and all religions do this. All religions teach us that life has difficulties, that life contains suffering, and we have to approach it in a positive way. And all religions teach us to train our ego, to put some constraints on our ego, so that we don't go beyond all bounds. Ultimate freedom is only for Allah. We are not Allah. And heaven forbid if any of us had ultimate freedom. We are not created for that. We do not have that in our makeup to be able to cope with it. I don't know if anybody's seen the film Bruce Almighty. If you haven't, you should. It teaches you why we don't have ultimate freedom. And even Bruce in that film didn't have ultimate freedom. But he was given extra powers, and he misused them, because he wasn't ready to have even an ounce of those powers. Yes, sometimes you can learn lessons from films if you know what you're looking for. You see, Allah leaves clues in all sorts of places, even unexpected places, for those who keep their eyes open and their hearts open to learning. Mawlana also said we should learn from everybody. This is what the wise people do. Mawlana continues, as we are living in a world which abounds in unliked things, rushing on a person from all directions, we must be prepared to bear every burden. Mankind has taken on the load of the divine trust, and it requires so much patience to carry it. But it was our first promise to our Lord that we would carry it, and if we fulfill our promise, He is certainly going to fulfill the promise. He has made to reward the patient. So you see, this was before all of our souls were born into this life. We were somewhere in the presence of Allah, in the spiritual realm, and before we were actually born into these bodies, all the souls of humanity collectively promised to Allah that we would remember Allah, and that we would actually carry His deen. We don't have a memory of that, because after we were born, only some people, like the prophets, will have some maybe memory or revelation about that. But it is something that each of our souls promised. And if we look deep within ourselves and cut through ego and cut through everything else and get to know our true self, we will realize that that is true. And this is why human beings are different from all the other animals on this earth. There is something, even if you compare us to an intelligent chimpanzee or an intelligent orangutan, really intelligent beings who are very developed and advanced, but there's something, they're not quite like us. There is something about human consciousness which distinguishes us from even these animals that are biologically closely related to us. There isn't actually that many genes that differentiate us from a chimpanzee. But clearly there's a big difference between a human being and a chimpanzee. And it's because Allah bestowed upon humanity the divine trust. And it's not an easy thing to carry. A chimpanzee doesn't have to carry that. A chimpanzee lives the life of an animal. But we have to carry it. And it is connected with faith and responsibility. Mawlana continues, if you try to build a building without a base, it may stand, but it will always be a precariously perched and dangerous structure that may collapse at any time. This is actually very similar to something that Hazrat Isa is reported to have said in the Bible about building a house on a rock and building a house on sand. A lot of people will build their house on sand. It doesn't literally mean a house, but it means their life, it means their future, it means maybe even their business, you know. A lot of people will build it on sand. They don't, firstly, they don't think things through, and they also don't look and, you know, they're not inspired maybe to actually do things in the best of ways, which will actually help them going forwards. And they do a lot of things, make a lot of mistakes, which cause their structure to fall down. The structure could be their life, it could be their marriage, it could be their business. All of these carry responsibility. And responsibility is something which, it is always a load, it is always a burden to carry. But this is what distinguishes us. What responsibility does a chimpanzee have, or an orangutan, or a dog? We are not dogs, orangutans or chimpanzees. These are beautiful creations of Allah, and we should be compassionate and loving towards them, but we are not them. They are different. We have this responsibility, and it is what defines us as being human, or it's one of the things that defines us as being human. So of course it's not an easy thing. Mawlana continued and says, Grand Shaykh was saying that our actions, if in accordance with the divine commandments, will be like the doors, windows and roof of a building. As our building grows in size, our good actions become the essential parts of the building, which make it complete. He says if there are no doors, windows or roof in a building, you can't live in it. Paradise is as an empty space that has been parcelled out for everyone through the mercy of our Lord. All have been granted private portions of paradise, but they are empty. Then, according to one's actions, Allah Almighty orders the angels to build so many buildings on these empty lots. With every good action, Allah Almighty is giving more light, greatness and beauty to your paradise. You will find there are exactly the fruits of your actions. So this is something that Mawlana relates from Grand Shaykh Abdullah Faiz Dagestani. He said that if we follow the Sharia, the divine commandments in our life, that this will be like the doors, windows and the roof of a building. And as our building grows in size, our good actions become the essential parts of the building which make it complete. In other words, what we do, that is that builds our life. And it doesn't just build our life here, it builds our paradise. And it's also very similar to something in the Bible, that we will reap what we sow. It's like if you sow seeds, you'll get the seeds that you sow. If If you sow thistles, you'll get thistles. If you sow wheat, you'll get wheat. We will get what we sow. This is justice, divine justice. And Allah will make sure that no one is, in the ultimate accounting of things, that no one will be treated unjustly. If there was injustice for them in this earth, then Allah will balance it. It's the importance, Istiqamah, of bearing the divine trust and being steadfast in life. And it applies to any aspect of life, whether it's deen, or whether it's getting married, whether it's having children, or even a business, or even being working for another company. All of these have an element of trust in them. And we have to bear that. We have to be steadfast. If we're steadfast in these things, we will achieve success in them. And there's an element of difficulty in that. If we give up at the first hurdle, we will never achieve the goals that we aim to achieve. If the English team floundered at that first match, they wouldn't be in the semi-final now. So it's the same with life. It's the same with anything. A lot of people, when they have problems and things fall apart around them, it's because maybe I'm not saying in every case, because people have their own reasons, but maybe in some cases they could have given a bit more. They could have tried a bit harder to be steadfast. They could have, and also the other important thing is we are created weak, so we cannot carry this by ourselves. So it's very important that when we face difficulties, that we turn towards Allah and ask Allah to help us through. And if you pray to Allah sincerely, you're doing everything that you can to resolve your difficulties, and you pray to Allah sincerely and ask for Allah's help as well, Allah will send something. How Allah answers that prayer, it's not always how you expect. Sometimes Allah, well, not sometimes, Allah is the best of planners. So, maybe you pray for something to be resolved one way, but Allah will send something that's better. Even if it takes a bit longer sometimes. It might not happen exactly how you expect. But if you pray to Allah when you're going through difficulties and ask for Allah's support, when you're doing everything that you can, then you watch, Allah will send some help and support your way. But don't give up. We are living in difficult times, even though in the UK we are hopefully coming out of lockdown restrictions in the next couple of weeks. But there's still, I'm aware in many parts of the world, there is still a lot of restrictions. There's a lot of virus going around and a lot of difficulties. And then there's the economic side of it as well. So I'm well aware, even in the UK, we're going to suffer economically from this, which is going to affect a lot of people. But in all of these difficulties, there are opportunities. And it's seizing those opportunities and not giving in. If something doesn't work, try something else. Keep trying. Never give in. And always ask Allah to help and support you in that process. I need to sign off now because I have somewhere else I have to be. But I wish you all Jummah Mubarak. And may Allah bless you. Enjoy the rest of Friday and have a good weekend. And I look forward to seeing you all again on next Thursday for my sohbet and zikr on Thursday evening, UK time, or on Friday. Salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.